In 1978, I was doing a real estate transaction with a client. He gets a phone call and starts arguing with somebody. Turns out he was arguing with his partner who had just come by a 1974 Dino that they had bought from insurance auctions, and found out a little about the car at that time. And I said, gee whiz, I'll buy it from you. And he goes, you don't want this car. It's been underground. And I says, nah, that sounds like my style.
And we checked compression, tried to start it, the car didn't start. We figured that probably the rings were stuck or something had happened. I don't know. So that's when we took the engine apart, and sure enough, all the rings were stuck together. We replaced 3 pistons, and of course all the rings. I did like a minor engine overall. Refreshed the rod bearings and main bearings, and did a nice valve job, and put it together, and the car ran good.
The key to the car was getting a good painter, and I was very fortunate there. It spent, I would say, no kidding, there was at least close to 3 weeks to a month on the body. He would take it in small sections, probably about this big, and he'd buff it down to the steel to get nice and clean. Then he'd throw a coat over it. And he did the entire car that way, all the way around. There was no Bondo used in the car whatsoever. Anything, if it was heat treated, they would heat treat the metal because of the aluminum. So any damaged areas were very carefully brought back to Ferrari standards for a brand new car. As you see the car now, that was painted in 1978. It has not been touched since. The forest green paint that was put on the outside, the formula was gotten directly from Ferrari. And if you were to take the door panels off and see the inside, you'd see a total match between the exterior and the interior. The interior being the original and the exterior being the painting, which was done in 1978. I'd actually taken it to many different mechanics that I had that would work on getting the oil changed and so forth, were absolutely shocked at the fact and the condition the car was in compared to a lot of cars that have been on the road. You know, it did not receive the amount of damage that you would have gotten from smog, but I guess, you know, life's changed now. We don't have the same ozone action going on. We don't have the same amount of smog that we had. So as it got better in the 70s and 80s, this car kind of skipped a lot of that from its being underground. And of course, when I drove it, I did not drive it all the time, so it was always kept in a garage and or undercover.
When I talked to Dennis Carroll later on, he was like, I asked him, you know, so what do you remember about this case? He said, well, I remember a lot of the attention around it, but to be honest, I've seen every riot in LA history. He goes, it was just a car. It's like, just a car. I guess, you know, compared to a riot, you know, it's not that memorable, but, you know, it's a Dino. It's beautiful. It's not just a car.
The Ferrari LaFerrari. It's the latest supercar to emerge from the mines of Maranello, Italy. It is in no small way the most highly advanced sports car in the Ferrari stable. It has an Italian V12 engine that sounds like mechanical angels, and because it's a hybrid, an electric motor that provides an extra power kick whenever you want it. All in, the LaFerrari produces a mind-melting 963 horsepower. It has a body structure born from F1 racing, and it's the first Ferrari to be designed completely in-house. Indeed, the LaFerrari is a work of art and of genius. It's also staggeringly quick. But what of the name? Well, Ferrari once called it the F150, a nod to its Formula One heritage. Only trouble was, a certain Ford pickup held claim to that particular mark. But whatever you call it, the Ferrari LaFerrari is a spectacular machine capable of amazing performance feats. But is it too much of a good thing? Let's go and find out. The LaFerrari carries with it perhaps the greatest weight of expectation of any car. You see, it's supposed to be the greatest, fastest, most exciting machine made by, well, the very best of the best. And even then, it's hard to digest just how much technology and performance Ferrari has chucked at the Enzo's replacement. The carbon tub is not only stronger and lighter, but narrower. The base design allows a smaller frontal area for better aerodynamics, and the driver and passengers sit directly onto the tub itself for a better connection. There's no conventional seat. The cabin is bare but expensive. Everything is carbon and most of it is recognisably Ferrari. The dash is all electronic. The steering wheel, for some reason, is square. The 6.3-litre V12 runs 800 horsepower and is supported by a 163 horsepower electric motor, all of which hits the surface through the rear wheels and a dual-clutch transmission. The dry weight is a little over 1,300 kilograms. The brakes are monster carbon Brembos which also offer energy recuperation. Ferrari claims a 0 to 186 time of 15 seconds, which is faster than the McLaren P1. The price? $1.69 million, and yes, they're all sold. Next up on Drive.
I really admire the fact that you can take all of this performance and such a singular design brief and end up with something that on the road is, so usable.